Yeah, I'll just take a turkey club on rye. Yeah, with a Coke, thanks. Hello there, I'm Simon Rafe and welcome to Brown Bag Bible Study, the Bible study you can do in your lunch break. Now this is an introduction to Scripture, which will give you some information you might not have known and encourage you to read the Bible. Most importantly, it is presented in bite-sized pieces, perfect to fit in with our busy lifestyles. Now every week I'll be concentrating on a small part of Scripture, either one of the 73 books of the Bible or a group of related books, and I'll be bringing you interesting facts and information to help you understand it. I'll also be including links to further reading, articles, books and so forth, which will help you learn to love sacred Scripture even more. This week, St. Paul's second letter to the church at Thessalonica. The traditional view, and one which has much support, is that it was written shortly after 1 Thessalonians while Paul was still in Corinth. The letter is less personal and intimate than the first one, although it deals with many of the same themes. Like 1 Thessalonians, much of it deals with the end times. The second chapter contains a clarification of Paul's first letter. The people of Thessalonica were being thrown into confusion and excitement by the notion that the coming of Christ was very imminent indeed, and Paul seeks to curb their enthusiasm, explaining more about how the end times will unfold. Paul lays out a number of signs and events which will take place before the second coming of Christ, so as to reassure the Thessalonians and stop them panicking. In addition, Paul exhorts the Thessalonians to always be ready for the coming of Jesus, and these two themes are very important and relevant for us today. As mentioned last week, Thessalonians is often misinterpreted by Protestant groups and used to spin a completely erroneous understanding of the end times. A solid grounding in the Catholic teaching and how to defend it is essential for the Catholic apologist, and a careful reading of the two letters to the church at Thessalonica is the place to start. 2 Thessalonians closes with Paul reminding them not to be lazy or feckless. It contains the famous line that he who refuses to work should not eat, a clear declaration against idleness and lack of discipline. Of course, this advice should not be interpreted divorced from the notion of charity towards the poor and less fortunate. Notice that Paul says those who refuse to work, not those who cannot. Similarly, Paul's urging people to mind their own business does not mean we should not correct those who are wrong or spiritually lazy. In fact, Paul goes on to specifically say we should correct those who are disobedient to the gospel and not treat them as enemies. 2 Thessalonians is very much a continuation of 1 Thessalonians, and the two letters should be read together and viewed in much the same way. Do check out the additional materials to help you understand these two letters of St. Paul, most especially the church's teaching on the end times. Next week, we'll be looking at the next letter Paul wrote, one of his most famous, 1 Corinthians. Until then, I'm Simon Rafe, and God bless. To learn more about the place of Scripture in the lives of Catholic Christians, I urge you to read Pope Benedict's apostolic exhortation Verbum Domini. The Pope encourages all Catholics to read, learn and love Scripture and to understand its relation to the Church. A link to this exhortation is included in the reading materials for every episode of Brown Bag Bible Study. Just click the link over there.